Alright, so get all comfortable, except 6 of you men. You're going to be my volunteers in about 5 minutes. Don't get too comfortable. Okay, history of Madrid. So as I said, we're going through 2,000 years of history. So we don't want this in one ear, out the other. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to go through the main points so that you can go back and you can tell, your friends and family, like, oh my gosh, I learned so much in Madrid. Okay? So to get started, Spain, first conquered by the Romans, by the Roman Empire in 200 BC. Then what happens? The Visigothic tribes, the Germanic tribes from the north of Europe, they come in and they take over Spain. Not all of Spain, they actually take over all of the north and up until about the halfway point in Spain, right? So up until right above Madrid. Madrid is in the very center of Spain, okay? Then what happens? They take half of Spain, and who takes the south and the center, the other part of the center? Anyone know? The Moors, the Arabs, right? So the Moors, they come in from North Africa, they invade around the coast of Spain and into the center. This is in 711. So at one point in history, we get half of Spain with the Christians, other half with the Muslims. What do you think happens? They fight, right? They fight, okay? So this is a period of time known as the Reconquista. Why is it called the Reconquista? Because the Christians consider that they reconquered their own territory, right? Relatively speaking, right? We don't know who reconquered whatever. So the Christians, they reconquer the center and the south of Spain in a 700-year crusade. It takes them 700 years to get Spain Christian again. Okay? What does this mean? This means that the Muslims, they were essentially here for over 700 years. They left a huge influence in Spain. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but they influenced as much as the language to a very strong degree. Now what happens? Now Spain is all Christian again, and we get into the medieval era. And because Spain hasn't been, a whole empire, it's been like half an empire for so long, it wasn't a very powerful place, right? They didn't have a lot of social, political leverage over other countries like France and like England, who were these, big Christian empires. So in order to get a little bit more political leverage, some authority over other countries in Europe, the Spanish royal family marries into the Austrian royal family. So then we get a 6th-generation rule known as the Habsburg dynasty. The Habsburgs, they are a family from Austria, as I said. They ruled in a period of time known as the Siglo d'Oro. This is the Golden Age. It's called the Golden Age because this is after 1492. So after Christopher Columbus discovers America, and we get a lot of gold and silver mining going on in the Americas that is making Spain very, very rich, because Columbus discovered it for Spain, apparently, right? So these 6 Habsburg kings, they see the rise and the decline of the Spanish Empire. They're really important. They're the ones who left the biggest marks on Madrid. So we're going to go through them in detail. So can I get 6 male volunteers, please? So can I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
All right.
No? 6? 6. Come on. You can be comfortable. All right, so can you men please line up right over here? All right, let us get started. So, we have got our 6 Habsburg kings right over here. So we are going to start with naming, because naming can be very complicated, right? And Habsburg's really original with names. Maybe they should compete with my own folks here. So, keep up. We have Philip. We have Charles, we have Philip, Charles. Could I get a Charles replacement? Does anyone mind? Do you mind? That would be so wonderful. Then I know, then you can finish this phone call in peace. Okay, so we are going to start with Philip the First. Philip the Handsome. That's what he's called, right? Philip the Handsome, dashing lad. So Philip the Handsome, he marries this local Spanish girl, this local girl called Juana la Loca. What does this mean?
Crazy.
Juana the crazy, Juana the mad, right?
That's fun.
And Juana the mad, she actually is driven mad over Philip's handsome good looks, because all of these court women, the cute little women, they're always flirting with her man. And she also goes a little nuts when he dies because, you know, she misses him like crazy. Weird story about how Philip the Handsome died, actually. He was said to be playing a medieval game of squash, something called pelota vasca here in Spain. Anyone tried it? Very weird medieval game of squash. And he's very hot, he's very sweaty, it's a hot summer day, so he chugs a big glass of ice water when he's done. He has a heart attack, catches a fever, and falls dead to the ground. It's a very strange sequence of events, but so it's said, and actually Spanish people will tell you that it's really bad for you to drink really cold water when you're really, really hot, because, you know, you may fall dead like Philip the Handsome over here. So he only did get to live about 2 years, but he didn't do anything terribly wrong in that time, so we can give him a big round of applause. Anyways, thank you, you can sit down. Philip the Handsome. Then we get Charles, or Carlos, because Carlos is Charles in Spanish. So we get Carlos the First. Now Carlitos over here, he's a little boy when his papa dies, and he can't take over the kingdom yet. So what happens is, his mother's father, Juana la Loca, her father, he takes over a couple years, and when Carlitos reaches puberty, he actually gets to inherit all Spanish territories. I should point out that this guy, he's known as Charles I for us, he's known as Charles V for the Germans, because everyone wanted to claim him. You know why? Because he got really, really powerful. This guy ended up becoming the most powerful man in Europe. Can you imagine? He not only inherits all Spanish territories, so this means not just Spain, but all of the territories in the newly discovered Americas. When his other European Habsburg grandfather dies, he inherits all European Habsburg territories. This means he gets Austria, the Netherlands, half of Italy, Sicily, Sardinia, and Athens. As I said, he is super, super powerful. In 1530, he is elected Holy Roman Emperor, and he's crowned by the Pope. I mean, come on, good job, man. But you know, we all know that with great power often comes great evil, right? Yeah, they don't usually do good things with their power. And it is under his rule that most of the Aztecs and the Incas in the newly discovered America get completely wiped out, and that the Spanish Inquisition starts getting very, very dirty with their work. So I don't know if you felt guilty. Did you feel guilty?
Un poco.
Yeah, un poco? A little guilty? I think you felt a little guilty. I like to think in the good of humankind. So he did end up retiring to a monastery and dying of malaria. So that's karma for you. Thank you very much. Charles I, Carlos I. Then we get
Felipe.
Right, it's a 50-50 chance, guys. Charles or Philip. So Philip II. We've mentioned Philip II before. Where have we mentioned Philip II?
Square.
In the square. Was he the statue in the square? No, he was not the statue in the square. No, he was not, actually. He was the one who commissioned the building of the square. I really like Philip II. Philip II, he's my favorite guy. You know why? Because he's the one who moves the capital to Madrid. So I have you to thank for that. Yeah. And this guy, he is religious, he is hardworking. He actually gets even more territories for Spain. Can you imagine it? How do you think he gets these territories? Through war? No. Yeah, through marriage. He's a little bit of a playboy. So this guy, he's lucky, I guess, and unlucky at the same time, because actually his wives keep dying. So he can get remarried again and he can get another territory. So first he gets Portugal. This means he doesn't only get Portugal, he gets Portugal's colonies. So he also gets Brazil and the Philippines. The Philippines, which are named after him. And then after Portugal, he actually marries Mary Tudor. Mary Tudor, where are my people from London? Where are my friends? Yeah, he marries Mary Tudor, Philip II and Mary Tudor. But when he marries Mary Tudor, the Brits, they have all of these laws, right? So they pull out this contract that's like 200 pages long, and on this contract it says that if Philip II were to die before Mary Tudor, if Mary Tudor were to die before Philip II, and before she could have, you know, an heir to the throne, a child, then Philip II would have to give up the throne of England, because he was the king of England and Ireland quite briefly. And guess what? It's exactly what happened. Right? She dies. So he loses the throne of England and Ireland. And then he says, damn, I really like that throne. He loses it to Elizabeth I, and he says, Elizabeth I, she's looking all right. So what does he do next? He proposes to Elizabeth I. What do you think Elizabeth I says? She says, no, you sicko, you just married my cousin. So Elizabeth I says, no, he's feeling really rejected at this point, so what does he do? He says, damn you, if I can't get you through marriage, I'll get you through war. So he sends the invincible Spanish Armada to go and get England back. And the invincible Spanish Armada is not used to weather in England. So who defeats the invincible Spanish Armada? No, not the very strong British army. Actually, a storm defeats them. And when they arrive in England, all the British have to do is essentially flick them for them to all, come crumbling down. So the invincible Spanish Armada, they end up, that ends up being a total disaster. Maybe 2 ships come back from there to Spain. Very, very sad. But other than that, he did a great job, right? He was really good other than that. We really like him. I really like him. We're going to mention him a lot during this tour, as I said before. He ends up dying of old age. That's about 70 at the time. Natural causes. So big round of applause. Philip II.
Felipe.
He's Philip again, right? But which one? Yeah, number 3. We mentioned him again.
The horse.
Yeah, he's the one on the horse. I also mentioned how he died. So this guy over here, he inherits his father's religious convictions, but not really his sense of hard work. You see, because at that point, Spain has gotten super, super rich from all of the gold and silver mining going on in the Americas. So guys, like Philip III over here, they feel like they really don't have to do anything. So they chill out, they relax, they don't invest in anything, and actually he spreads the notion that it is dishonorable to do anything. So basically, like, if you're peeling your own apple, then that looks really bad on you because you don't have someone to peel it for you. Okay? Yeah? Sounds about right? And it's actually said that he died of this, because he died from overexposure to a bed warmer, because the servant responsible for removing the bed warmer wasn't in the room at the time. Now he had a servant for every single different task, right? One to brush his hair, one to brush his teeth, and all of this. So you can imagine this guy's kind of lying in bed like, I'm warm, like, I'm warm. And then all of a sudden he's too warm and he burns to death because the guy never removed it. So that's how Philip III over here died of laziness. He also started another war, which was wonderful for him. So thanks a lot, Philip III, for nothing. And then we get Philip, again, the 4th. Philip IV, he's exhausted and corrupt at the end of his rule. He inherits his father's, his grandfather's wars, and he's going to sit down because I have nothing to say about him. Carlos II. He has a nickname too. It's Carlos the Bewitched. Why? Because you see, the Habsburgs, they didn't have such a great understanding of science and genetics, right? So for generations and generations, the Habsburgs have been marrying their cousins. Yay! And Carlos II over here, he is the result of generations of inbreeding. So the poor guy, he is born with this giant head. That means that he can't stand up straight, right? So actually, if you see portraits of him in the Prado, he's always leaning on something. He's also born with this massive jaw, which means that he's always dribbling when he eats. And then he has allergies, which means that his tongue is always getting swollen. So nobody can ever understand what the heck he's saying, which is kind of weird. When you're a king, you need to be understood, right? Poor guy, man. Yeah. And he has a bone disease, so he's always reclined on top of this. And he's basically, like, handicapped mentally and physically.
That's me.
So, guys, they don't have such a great understanding of science at the time. So what do they think? They think he's bewitched, he is cursed. So their solution, great solution, is to take some bird carcasses and put them on his head. And when that doesn't work, they resort to bigger and bigger animals, and they put the carcasses of these animals in his bedchamber. So on top of all of these things he has wrong for him, like, that's not enough, right? He also smells really bad. But much worse, right? For the Habsburgs, what could be worse than all of this? Anyone know? Aha! Carlos II is impotent. I'm so sorry. What does this mean? The Habsburg dynasty cannot go on, right? It's the end of the Habsburg dynasty. There is no heir to succeed the throne. So thanks. And you know what? He might have been bewitched after all because he did die on a very bewitched day. Anyone can guess? Halloween. A lot of people say Friday the 13th. No, it's Halloween. He died on Halloween 1700. Creepy. Okay, so nobody to succeed the throne. So what do we get? We get the War of Spanish Succession, right? Who wins the War of Spanish Succession? All of these royal families around Europe, they're like, ooh, we want the Spanish throne, we want it. The Bourbons, a French-related family, win. And so we get the dynasty, the House of Bourbons, who come and rule Spain. The Bourbon dynasty, they were known for basically making everything kind of pretty here around Spain, and they neglected the army, and so Spain becomes a stomping ground for Napoleon. So Napoleon comes in and he invades Spain, he invades Madrid, and Madrileños, they didn't like the French then, they still don't like them now, by the way. And so there is this huge uprising, that is actually portrayed in a very famous painting by Goya in the Prado Museum on the 3rd of May, 1808, and it's called the 3rd of May, 1808. This uprising is violently put down in a matter of 24 hours, okay? Even though it's put down, the Madrileños, they do not despair, they fight. They eventually kick the French out. Spain is independent again, but it is extremely politically unstable for the next 150 years. Okay, so we get tons of political coups going on. And then we fast forward to 1931. This is the Second Spanish Republic. It's also the year that statue got knocked over, right? Second Spanish Republic, they gave women the right to vote. They gave autonomy to the different regions of Spain. They allowed for the separation of the church and the state. These are some pretty radical reforms, right? Reforms not appreciated by the nobles, by the army, by the church. So we get another coup that turns into the 3-year-long Spanish Civil War. Spanish Civil War between the Republic and the Nationalists. At the head of the Nationalists, we get this guy, he's friends with Hitler and Mussolini.
Franco.
You know? Francisco Franco, right? Francisco Franco, he wins the Spanish Civil War and he becomes the dictator here in Spain from 1939 until 1975. During this period of time, Spain is in total isolation from the rest of Europe. Spain was not a participant during the Second World War, and it's not until 1975 that it actually returned to democracy. Now, it nearly all went totally wrong, but I'm going to save that lovely Franco story for the very end of the tour. It's my supper ending. Okay, and now let's go see what those Habsburg kings left on Madrid.
Age 2030. So after that, he comes where we were.
Guys, cars are actually allowed to come in these random streets. Did you like being Carlos II? It's always a fun one to be. I like when you help me out.
Remember all the time. He's thinking about to do the coming again.
But it was a good experience. I know you're talking about before I went. No, they were there this semester.
You're all I couldn't eat. Yeah, I don't
Well, it's like, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, so I have but I think that's a good idea. 25 to 30 years. These are berries, but it's much more berries. Yeah, there was some they hopefully be good. But I mean, like, you can do it really cheaply. We obviously are going to try to do it. So, not like yes, it's always blue sky here, except for yesterday. Yesterday was the third time it rained since the 1st of June. I'm not kidding. It's always like this. It has an unbelievable sky. Yeah, this is typical. Oh yeah, to San Diego. Beautiful. Yesterday was my first tour in the rain, and it was pouring. Fun. Okay, guys, I want you to check out this building and tell me what's weird about it. It looks weird, right?
Yeah.
It looks a little weird. A little bit.
Windows everywhere.
There's windows everywhere. Yes, you guys got it on the first. Wow, that's unbelievable. It usually takes people like ages. Okay, so there are windows everywhere. The windows are totally random on this building, right? They're all different sizes. They're all different levels. I mean, this is chaotic. If you look over here, for example, all of the windows, all the same size, all the same level. What the heck is going on? Houses like these around Madrid are called the houses of mounts. And they were actually a way for people to dodge taxes back in the 16th century. Because you see, in the 16th century, Philip II, where's Philip II? Raise your hand up high. You better be proud, Philip II. Yes, there we go. Remember yourself. I'm going to mention you a lot, okay? You need to be at the forefront.
Philip II from Miami.
Yeah. Yeah, the player. Okay, so Philip II, he is the one who moved the capital to Madrid, right? That's why I liked him so much. And so when he moves the capital to Madrid, he builds the first royal palace, not the one that's now, but the first royal palace, so he has a nice place to stay. But then he also brings in hundreds and hundreds of royal servants. And these guys, they don't have a place to stay. Madrid, it wasn't the capital. The capital was actually in Toledo. Anyone been to Toledo yet? No. Recommended. Beautiful medieval town, was the capital before Madrid. So he moves to the small town of Madrid, has this, royal palace built, brings in all these royal servants. It's a small town. So these royal servants, he's not going to have them stay in his precious royal palace. They don't have a place to stay. So he actually passes a law. He passes a law that says that everybody living in the small town that is Madrid at the time, who has a house that is more than 1 story high, needs to partition the rooms of the other stories of their house in order to accommodate the royal servants. So you can imagine, you're a nice little family with a nice little house living in Madrid. All of a sudden, you get 10 and 20 royal servants being like, hey, we're coming, I'll move in with you. Hey. And by the way, we're going to put a wall in between these rooms, and this side of the room is going to be ours. So the people, they were like, no way. These guys aren't coming to live in our house. So they said no. Philip II, he gets pissed off. He's like, you don't want to accommodate my precious royal servants. If you don't want to accommodate them, you need to pay a tax. And so he imposes a tax on people who refuse to partition their rooms. So what do people do? They decide to disguise their houses. To disguise their houses so that you can't tell how many stories the house has. Yeah. So you look over here and you can tell me in a heartbeat, how many stories?
3.
4, guys.
4. All
We
right.
can say 4. Yeah. 4 stories. This one.
2.
Are you sure?
No.
Is it 2 or 3?
3.
Or is it just 1? Is it just one giant? room?
2.5.
We don't know, right? Because it's very difficult when you have windows all over the place to tell where the floor is. And they also added extra windows in all of these different places, all these small windows, because there was a law that also said that you couldn't partition a room, that is put a wall in between a room, when you had a window right there, right? How does that work? And so this is the way that those 16th century clever Madrileños actually managed to avoid taxes back in the day. Clever, right? These days, not so easy. You want to try?
How many levels are they?
Huh?
How many levels are they?
How many levels are there? To tell you the truth, I have absolutely no idea. Never been inside.
Like 1, 2, 3.
Maria, is your apartment?
I'm gonna go in 3. Sorry guys, I would let you sit, but it's a big group today and I need to shout. But you can sit. Over there. Okay, do I have everyone? Right now we are on Plaza de la Cruz Verde. This is the square of the Green Cross. You can see the Green Cross that used to stand here, doesn't stand here anymore. Right over there on that sign for the square, there was a giant green cross that used to stand here. The Green Cross, it used to represent the Spanish Inquisition. And the Spanish Inquisition, they used to carry out their public executions right here on the square, as well as on Plaza Mayor. Those executions using that famous garrote, right? By the way, fun fact of the day, last person to get executed using the garrote was in 1974. Yeah. Just to point out, this wasn't a common form of execution at the time. It was under Franco's era. But Franco actually executed an anarchist in 1974 in this way because he wanted to make a point, wanted to make a statement. Okay, so the Spanish Inquisition, what were they? They were like the Catholic religious police. So you see, when we had that conflict, when we had the Reconquista happen, right, the North, Christians reconquering the Muslims, the Christians came in and they told all of the Muslims, everyone who was non-Christian, that they essentially needed to convert to Christianity, to Catholicism, or that they needed to leave the country. So, you get tons and tons of Jews, of Muslims, of Protestants leaving the country, but you do get some converts, right? Jewish converts to Christianity are called conversos, and Muslim converts are called moriscos, okay? And although these people did convert, the ones that stayed behind, the Spanish Inquisition, they still suspected them of practicing their beliefs in secret. So they went along to persecute them anyways, right? They thought they were plotting against the regime. So, you know, they started with the Muslims, then they went for, actually they started with the Jews. I don't know, they always started with the Jews. Poor you. And then they went on to the Muslims, and then they went on to the Protestants, and when they were done, they were like, oh gosh, no, we have nobody else to persecute. Gosh, we have nothing to do. Like, what should we do? So then they went after the Freemasons, the liberals, the writers, basically so anybody who would so much as suggest a reform to the Spanish Inquisition. So you can imagine you are a converso or a morisco. So you are a recent convert to Christianity. You need to prove to the Inquisition, to your neighbors, that you are not in fact practicing your beliefs in secret, right? And if you are the Inquisition, you need a foolproof method of determining who is a true devout Christian and who isn't. How would you do that? What is one thing that both Jews and Muslims do not eat? Pork. Notice that over here in Madrid you get a Museo del Jamón on every block. Jamón means ham, by the way. The obsession here with jamón, or ham, is actually a lasting effect of the Spanish Inquisition. Because back in the day, the way to prove to other people that you were not practicing your old beliefs in secret, or the way for the Inquisition to determine, you know, who was a secret Jew or Muslim, was to have jamón served all the time, every meal, public dinners, public lunches, spotting who was eating it and who wasn't. So you're out at a public lunch, you don't really feel like having jamon. Inquisition might be knocking on your door a couple hours later, right? Yeah. And you know, over hundreds and hundreds of years, Spaniards got really good at making the stuff. And so actually here you can get some really, really nice jamon right here. You're looking for not just regular jamon, what they have here is jamon ibérico. What is jamon ibérico? Well, jamon ibérico comes from not just any pig, but it comes from happy piggies. Happy piggies that get to hang out with their piggy friends in nature and eat a lot of acorns. And actually acorns are very expensive, so the more acorns the piggy eats, the higher grade the jamon is. And you know how we rate hotels like 5 stars, we rate restaurants 3 Michelin stars? Well, you rate jamon with jotas, and you actually have 5 jotas. And the most expensive jamon, so the highest quality, the one with 5 jotas, it's actually worth more than its weight in gold. It can get really, really expensive. So I do encourage you to try out jamon. I'm not saying go and spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on it, but you should taste it. Very, very tasty stuff. That is if you're not a vegetarian or Jewish or Muslim. Sorry, man. Okay, and now I believe it has got time for our commercial break. Okay, so Sandy Man's Company, what I work for, yeah? We offer 3 tours, other tours other than this free tour that you guys are in right now, right? The first tour that we offer is a tapas tour. So this is actually an opportunity for you to try out some real high-grade jamon and try out this whole nice tradition of tapas. Tapas stores around the cities, they tend to be quite pricey. They can be around 40 to 50 euros. Ours is 14 euros. They take you to 3 different tapas bars. They give you all-you-can-eat tapas in each bar, and you get drinks included on top of that. You get either wine, cider, or you get, tinto de verano, which is a kind of wine spritzer, cider, or a beer in the bars that you go into. It starts every single day at 7 p.m. in Plaza de Chueca. That is a very cute neighborhood over there a little bit north. This neighborhood is known as the Gay District, and probably for this reason it's very lively. There are a lot of bars, clubs, like discotecas and stuff like that. Anyways, it's a great time. You're with a group of people, you're with a guy who explains to you about tapas. It's good, jolly fun. Second tour to offer. If you guys are interested in a rowdy night out here in Madrid, Madrid has a phenomenal nightlife. I can tell you that. Nightlife, it goes all night. As I said, 8 in the morning, standard. Nightclubs before 4 a.m., they are empty. Totally empty before 4 a.m., I kid you not. So anyways, do you want to experience this lovely Spanish nightlife? We invite you to join us on our pub crawl. Our pub crawl starts 10 p.m. every day on Plaza Mayor. They take you to 3 bars, you get a shot in each bar and a drink on top of that, and then you get into a nightclub. They change the nightclub every night, which is wonderful for you because it's 12 euros if you buy the pub crawl once, then you can go as many nights as you want. Yeah? So you can go home with a bleeding bladder. Fun, right? For only 12 euros. Awesome. Final tour I offer you to come on is our cultural tour. And this is a tour, right now we are in the Habsburg Madrid. So you will notice it's a lot of really small streets and you're gonna notice the Austrian architecture that I'll point out later. Our other tour goes through the Bourbon dynasty, right? So the ones who are focused on making everything all pretty, who made, the 3 fountains that you see further into the city, which, are the big landmarks of Madrid. So tomorrow I'm not running it, it's actually my colleague running it, but she is awesome, she's super cool. And she runs it tomorrow and Saturday at 3 p.m. And this tour is 12 euros a person, 10 euros for students if you have a student card or anything that looks like it, okay? We're not very picky. So if you guys are interested in either of these 3 tours, we sell the tickets here during the free tour. The thing is, we can't sell them on the street. We're not legally allowed to sell tickets on the street, so that's why, we sell it during the free tour. So at the break, I will mention it again. My colleague's gonna be there. If you guys are interested, then you're welcome to go and, he can answer all your questions or I can. Awesome. Your maps also show you the starting points of all 3 of these tours. So, end of commercial break.
So
thank you very much.
When we finish here, we are ready for the cultural tour.
For the cultural tour, yeah, you get 1 hour for lunch, and then you meet us back up.
All right.
Yeah, and it's tomorrow, and Saturday, and Mondays and Wednesdays, if you guys are here for a long time. Awesome. Thanks so much for bearing with me. Let's go.